The Honourable the Premier.
Monsieur le Président, j'aimerais débuter en remerciant les gens de Kent. Il n'y a pas de doute que je ne serais pas ici en ce moment si ce n'était pas pour les gens de la circonscription de Kent qui m'ont accordé leur confiance pour que je sois leur député et aussi pour que je sois capable de faire mon entrée à l'Assemblée législative comme le chef de l'opposition. Je vais aussi remercier les gens de baie de Chaudiac-Dieppe. Ils m'ont accordé leur confiance pour être leur député et c'est grandement apprécié. I certainly also want to take a minute to thank all the Liberals across the province as well, Mr. Speaker. They put their confidence in me to be their leader. I very much appreciate everything that they do to try to make the province a better place and, of course, for the confidence that they have given me. Je veux remercier tous les députés de l'Assemblée législative. Je veux les remercier parce que je sais que ce sont des personnes qui veulent faire une différence pour leur communauté et la province. Je veux à mon tour remercier leurs familles. Être un politicien, être député ou être ministre, c'est beaucoup de travail. Les familles et les proches de chacun et chacune entre nous sont importants à l'équation. C'est des personnes qui vont eux aussi faire des sacrifices pour que nous soyons capables d'être ici à l'Assemblée législative pour représenter nos communautés. I quickly want to thank everybody in the Premier's office for all their support and work. I want to thank everyone from government members' office for the work that they give to the private members of the government caucus. I want to thank the employees of the opposition office as well and the office of the third party. I know they work very hard and they do so because they care about New Brunswick. I want to thank the deputy ministers and all of the civil service. Ce sont des personnes qui travaillent très fort pour essayer d'améliorer la qualité de vie pour tous les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick. I want to thank the clerk, the pages, the people that work at the cafeteria, the sergeant at arms, all the security members. I want to thank the translators. I also want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for making sure that the legislature go as smooth as possible. So we do appreciate very much your commitment to democracy and to New Brunswick. Je vais prendre un moment aussi pour remercier tous les ministres de mon cabinet. Ce sont des personnes qui travaillent, je peux vous dire, jour et nuit pour avancer leur dossier, mais aussi pour avancer la province. Leurs employés travaillent aussi très fort pour les appuyer. I want to thank my entire caucus, Mr. Speaker. I am the luckiest Premier in the world. I have the best caucus I could possibly ask for. They are supportive, they work hard, and they care deeply about New Brunswick. So when you have a great group of individuals like I do around me, it is very helpful to be able to wake up every morning and be energized to try to do the best we can to make a difference. Je vais prendre le temps pour remercier le député de Murmurmcook-Tantramar et la députée de Miramichi-Niguac pour leur travail pour vous appuyer. They did a great job as deputy speakers, and I would like to congratulate the member from Caraquet and the member from Moncton East. La députée de Moncton Est et le député de Caraquet vont maintenant vous aider, Monsieur le Président. Je suis convaincu qu'ils vont faire du beau travail. Mr. Speaker, lastly, on my thank yous, I want to thank the people of New Brunswick. None of us would be here if it weren't for the fact that people in our ridings have given us their confidence. I would not be Premier of New Brunswick if it weren't for New Brunswickers, many of New Brunswickers giving their confidence to me and to our political party, and of course the agenda that we put forward to try to move our province forward. I thank them very much as well because New Brunswickers are working hard. Nous sommes dans une période de croissance très minime en termes économiquement parlant. Et, Monsieur le Président, ce n'est pas facile. Ce n'est pas facile pour n'importe quel gouvernement autour du pays. Ce n'est pas facile pour n'importe quel niveau du gouvernement. Ce n'est pas facile pour les entreprises et pour, même plus important, les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Mais les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick travaillent très fort et je peux vous dire que nous sommes très fiers du travail qu'ils font pour continuer à faire compétition au niveau international. Nos entreprises, nos industries et nos gens du Nouveau-Brunswick qui font en sorte qu'on a le meilleur main-d'œuvre possible font du beau travail et on les félicite. Mr. Speaker, I have to say these aren't in my notes, but as I listened to the speeches of the other political leaders, I was a bit disappointed. It's unfortunate that we can't, on the last day, speak about some of the positive things that have happened here in the legislature, and we believe many positive things did happen. Mr. Speaker, I have to say that you debate sometimes if you want to raise it, but I just have to say it. The Leader of the Opposition would like us to have a meeting with you, Mr. Speaker, and the political leaders. I can't tell you how often this has happened, but I don't think very often. We were invited before every session as all the political leaders, to go have dinner with the Lieutenant Governor. And 2 years in a row, the Leader of the Opposition did not show up. And Mr. Speaker, for him to have the audacity now to get up and say that we should have some meeting to discuss the legislature, I really think it is unfortunate. I never wanted to raise that, Mr. Speaker, but for the member opposite to raise that.
Member for Fredericton-West Hanwell will come to order.
Now, the member opposite may have a good excuse, but it's unfortunate that no representative was sent in his place, or it was unfortunate that he never requested that we reschedule the dinner, Mr. Speaker. This is a tradition that I took part in when I sat down with then Speaker Dale Graham and then Premier David Alward. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you it's not necessarily that comfortable sitting with someone that you oppose every day in the legislature, but I think it can help us. It can help us talk about the important things we can work on together. And unfortunately, the member opposite decided to not go 2 years in a row. But now he has the audacity to say that we should get together and speak about the legislature. And Mr. Speaker, I have to say, when the member from Fredericton South was elected, I was excited. I really was. I obviously would have liked to have a Liberal in Fredericton South. But, Mr. Speaker, I was excited at the prospects of having a third party represented in the legislature, one that has been represented for the first time with the member of Fredericton South winning that riding. I thought, Mr. Speaker, that the member from Fredericton South would do things a bit differently than the way he's doing it. For him to get up today, Mr. Speaker, and not mention any of the positive things that I know deep down inside he agrees with, Mr. Speaker, I think is unfortunate. Nous pouvons faire mieux, Monsieur le Président. Est-ce qu'ils ont tous un rôle à jouer pour nous garder imputables? Absolument, Monsieur le Président. Est-ce qu'ils doivent nous critiquer? Absolument, Monsieur le Président. Est-ce qu'ils devraient nous dire lorsqu'ils ne sont pas en accord avec nous? Absolument, Monsieur le Président. Mais j'oserais croire que parfois, ils sont d'accord avec nous. Et surtout, le député de Fredericton Sud, je m'attendais un peu plus de lui. I cannot believe that he did not get up today to talk about how there's an enhancement for the CPP that is looming, that it's going to ensure that we have a sustainable program to help seniors in this country. I would assume he supports that, and I can't believe he didn't talk about it today. I'm surprised that he wouldn't talk positively about the fact that our government has raised the minimum wage twice now. I know he supports that, and why wouldn't he mention that on the floor of the legislature today? I know that he must support, well, in fact, I know this because he raised it as one of the ways to raise revenue, that we raise the corporate tax rate. Now, Mr. Speaker, why would he not mention that that was a good move from our government here on the floor of the legislature today? I would assume that he supports the fact that we raise taxes on the 1% richest in the province so we could be able to protect education, invest in health care, and make sure we have a growing economy. Why would he not mention that he supported that initiative of our government? Why would he not mention that, despite the fact that we have financial difficulties, that he agrees that we should not be closing down our hospitals in rural New Brunswick, Mr. Speaker? Why would he not say today on the floor of the legislature that he is supportive of the fact that we have the most generous HST rebate in Atlantic Canada for low-income and middle-class families? Why would he not get up? Why would he not get up today, Mr. Speaker, and say that it was good that by working with First Nation communities through projects like Plateau, PQA, Trevally, we've been able to create hundreds of jobs for our First Nations across this province? I know he supports that. Why wouldn't he mention that today in his speech? Why wouldn't he mention, and I know deep down inside, maybe he has some issues with it, but deep down inside, he must be supportive of the free tuition policy that we have passed today, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, they can go back to Hansard. Did I criticize the Alward government? Absolutely. Did I let people know when I didn't agree? Yes, I did, Mr. Speaker. Did I make sure that I would shed light on anything that I thought needed to be shown to New Brunswickers? Yes, Mr. Speaker. But you go back in Hansard and you will see. I always made a point to say if I agreed with them. Mr. Speaker, that's not easy to do in the opposition. It's not easy to do when you're not in the government seats. But it's leadership. Mr. Speaker, we sometimes have to show New Brunswickers that we're not just in this building to gain political points, but that we're here because sometimes we're going to all agree, or at least some of us are going to agree, on what are the right measures to improve the quality of life of New Brunswickers. So I have to say, I expected it from the Leader of the Opposition. It's still unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that he would not get up and talk about any of these good things. Not surprising because he opposed every single one. The CPP enhancement, raising the minimum wage, raising corporate tax rates, raising taxes on the 1% richest amongst New Brunswickers, the closing of hospitals in rural New Brunswick, Mr. Speaker, not doing that, the HST rebate that's the most generous, and the free tuition bill. These are all things that they opposed. But I would have expected more from the member from Fredericton South. I would have expected that he would have got up on his feet today and would have said that he agreed with these things. Still making the criticism that he wanted to make, Mr. Speaker. That's fair. That's his job, and that's okay. And we'll debate that. We don't obviously agree on everything, and that's fine. But there's a list of things that we do. And I'm a bit upset and I'm a bit disappointed that the member opposite wouldn't point that out. And I appreciate the condescending sounds coming out from the opposition. But Mr. Speaker, we can all do better. And we'll try to do better too, Mr. Speaker. Et je peux vous dire que nous allons continuer à travailler très fort pour avancer les priorités des gens du Nouveau-Brunswick. And we did that during this session. Was it easy? No, it was not. Was it hard? Yes, it was, Mr. Speaker. We made tough decisions, but we tried to do the best we possibly could to engage as many New Brunswickers through our strategic program review. Mr. Speaker, we had an unprecedented level of consultation. We inherited a fiscal challenge, not just because of the previous government, but because of many governments and many challenges facing New Brunswick. And Mr. Speaker, we took a balanced approach. Nous avons fait des décisions qui vont nous donner à peu près 300 millions de dollars en revenus additionnels et à peu près 300 millions de dollars dans des dépenses qui vont réduire au niveau des dépenses gouvernementales. De plus, Monsieur le Président, nous avons fait en sorte, en raison des consultations, que nous allons investir davantage dans les priorités des gens du Nouveau-Brunswick. Through the Strategic Program Review, it became very clear. New Brunswickers wanted us and want us to invest in education, in health care, and in the economy. And, Mr. Speaker, I can tell the people of New Brunswick that that's exactly what this government will do. And, Mr. Speaker, let's talk a little bit about what we've been doing recently on these priorities. To make sure we have the ability to give the businesses and industries in our province the environment that they need to grow, we're reducing red tape, we're harmonizing regulations within the Maritimes. We're making sure that we're going to have a growing population in New Brunswick. C'est en raison de ça que nous sommes très fiers que nous avons un programme avec le gouvernement fédéral qui va aider la région des provinces de l'Atlantique à faire croître leur population avec plus de places à amener des nouveaux arrivés. Bien sûr, ça va être fait en conjonction avec des stratégies qui vont nous aider à garder les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick ici dans la province et ramener des Néo-Brunswickois ici dans la province aussi. On top of that, Mr. Speaker, Opportunities New Brunswick is working hard across the globe, looking for every opportunity. And whether it be Groupe Savoie in Restigouche, whether it's Blue Ocean in Bathurst, whether it's DO in Miramichi, whether it's WestJet in Moncton, whether it's BMM in Moncton, whether it's IBM in St. John and Fredericton and Florenceville, Bristol, whether it's the investments that we're making in infrastructure, whether it's the investments that we're making in the Youth Employment Fund, we are trying to make sure that all the industries have an agile government, have the people they need, have the infrastructure they need, and we are making sure that we have a good climate for business to grow and to set up right here in New Brunswick. Et de plus, Monsieur le Président, nous comprenons que si nous sommes pour avancer notre économie, il faut faire davantage pour les femmes de notre province. It is well known, Mr. Speaker, that the more you advance the status of women in any jurisdiction, any organization, the better your economy will perform. So, Mr. Speaker, we're working very hard on ensuring that the status of women can move forward. That's why today we have passed legislation that will make it that the Women's Forum will be independent from government. That's why, Mr. Speaker, that we have ensured that when it comes to agencies, boards and commissions appointments, we are prioritizing women to make sure that we can have a ratio that will be higher in terms of the composition, the gender composition of our ABCs. And, Mr. Speaker, as you've seen in the last couple of weeks, we are making historic investments in pay equity, which will help women, which will help the status of women throughout the whole province. Et, Monsieur le Président, nous faisons beaucoup pour l'éducation. C'est une priorité à moi-même, c'est une priorité de l'équipe, c'est une priorité de notre gouvernement. Monsieur le Président, c'est en raison de ça que nous sommes très fiers d'avoir le Fonds de l'emploi pour les jeunes qui va nous aider à donner une main-d'œuvre qualifiée à l'économie et, plus important, qui va donner la jeunesse de notre province la chance de gagner de l'expérience de travail. Monsieur le Président, c'est en raison de ça que nous avons nous avons demandé à des experts pour qu'ils développent un plan pour l'éducation pour nous. Alors, ils nous ont donné des recommandations que nous allons maintenant travailler avec les gens du système pour implanter. Nous avons demandé pour une stratégie sur l'alphabétisation, Monsieur le Président. And on top of that, we have made sure that we've made it clear to all New Brunswickers that education is a priority, and that's why I'm so proud that as a government, we will be the government that invests the most in education in the history of New Brunswick. And Mr. Speaker, with the Education and New Economy Fund, we're going to be making record investments in education. We're going to be making investments in training, in research and development, in the green economy, and yes, in things that will help us ensure that post-secondary education is more accessible and affordable than any time before. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, that we should remember this day, because we have passed a historic bill. The free tuition bill will help those that need it most, Mr. Speaker. It will have a societal change that anybody living in poverty in our province, anybody from a low-income family, anyone from a middle-class family that fears they will not have the finances to be able to go to university or college will now know that their government is there to support them, and they'll have just the same chances as anyone else. Monsieur le Président, nous faisons aussi beaucoup pour essayer d'améliorer la qualité de vie pour les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick, que ce soit faire certain qu'on a le système électoral le mieux possible. Et c'est en raison de ça que nous avons un comité, nous avons demandé pour des noms de l'opposition, nous avons donné la majorité aux députés de l'opposition et le Parti vert, Monsieur le Président, pour que ce soit non partisan, pour que nous ayons une conversation avec les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick non partisan. Et c'est important de revisiter, de parler, discuter de comment on peut innover avec notre système électoral. Monsieur le Président, nous avons mis dans notre plateforme que nous allions avoir une discussion sur les scrutins préférentiels et sur le votage en ligne. Et bien sûr, lors des derniers mois, nous avons vu des discussions provenant des gens du Nouveau-Brunswick concernant l'âge du vote et concernant le financement des partis politiques. Alors, il y a plusieurs sujets qui sont importants pour les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick et c'est important que l'opposition participe, c'est important que l'opposition soit entendue, c'est important que l'opposition vienne amener les situations de leur communauté, Monsieur le Président, et c'est important que les gens voient que ça va être non partisan. Et je peux vous dire, puisque nous n'aurons pas la majorité, que ça sera non partisan. 2 des 3 partis politiques auraient besoin d'être en faveur de n'importe quelle recommandation pour que ça aille de l'avant. De plus, Monsieur le Président, pour essayer d'améliorer la qualité de vie des gens du Nouveau-Brunswick, nous travaillons avec le gouvernement fédéral sur le renforcement du RPC. We're working hard on making sure, Mr. Speaker, that seniors will have the best quality of life in New Brunswick, whether it's the Aging Council that will give us some first-rate advice and counsel, Mr. Speaker, on what we can do to ensure that seniors have the best quality of life that they can here in the province, whether it's the fact that we have now dedicated a minister for seniors and long-term care, or whether it's the fact, Mr. Speaker, that we're building state-of-the-art nursing homes like the one in the Miramichi that will resemble nothing like a warehouse, Mr. Speaker. We are going to make sure seniors in our province have the quality of life they deserve. Et nous allons continuer de faire en sorte que les aînés soient capables de rester dans leur maison, rester à domicile le plus longtemps possible, dans les maisons, dans les communautés qu'ils ont bâties, Monsieur le Président. And on top of that, we're doing more, because we all have to step up on climate change. And Mr. Speaker, it's an important conversation. It is the largest challenge facing our generation, Mr. Speaker. Canada has to step up. New Brunswick has to step up. And we're very happy that in this case, the Conservative opposition has provided names for us to be able to have a nonpartisan conversation with New Brunswickers about how we are going to ensure we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, transition to a low-carbon economy, all the while making sure that there's opportunity, jobs, and growth in New Brunswick, Mr. Speaker. Here, here. And, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that everybody has the quality of life that they deserve, we're very happy, like I mentioned earlier in the speech, that we have raised the minimum wage twice already, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to keep doing that until we have a fair wage for the workers of New Brunswick, not only because it improves their quality of life, but as we all know, it improves the economy across this province, Mr. Speaker. Pour conclure, Monsieur le Président, nous avons encore des défis au Nouveau-Brunswick. Nous avons des choses que nous avons besoin de faire face ensemble. Et je demande à l'opposition, je demande aux députés de Fredericton-Sud de nous laisser savoir quand ils sont en désaccord avec nous, de nous laisser savoir si ils pensent qu'on a besoin d'être plus imputable sur de quoi, qu'ils nous critiquent lorsque c'est qu'ils pensent réellement qu'il faut nous critiquer. Mais je leur demande aussi de travailler avec nous lorsqu'on peut être en accord. Pour que l'opposition essaye de dire que les choses que j'ai mentionnées ne vont pas aider la qualité de vie des gens du Nouveau-Brunswick ou que ça ne va pas faire croître l'économie, Monsieur le Président, je pense que c'est très malheureux. Nous allons encore, lorsque nous allons arriver à nouveau en novembre et tous les mois entre, essayer de travailler avec l'opposition. Les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick veulent qu'on travaille ensemble. The people of New Brunswick want us to work together, Mr. Speaker. We recognize that, and we will do what we can to make sure that happens. But, Mr. Speaker, I have to point out that although there are challenges, there are opportunities as well. New Brunswickers are strong, resilient, and capable people, Mr. Speaker. And we see that in the results of the economy of New Brunswick. To have 1,200 jobs created in the last month, well, that's because of the hard work of New Brunswickers. To have the largest wage increase from second largest wage increase in the country from November 2014 to November 2015 in the country here in New Brunswick, Mr. Speaker, well, that's because of the hard work of businesses in our province. And, Mr. Speaker, in 2015, to have a 1.9% increase of our economy, despite all the indicators being really strained at the moment throughout the Canadian economy, is very impressive. And New Brunswickers deserve to be congratulated. It's the largest increase since 2010, and it's the fourth largest increase in the country. So, Alors, Monsieur le Président, nous allons continuer de travailler très fort pour les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick pour avancer leurs priorités. We're going to continue to work very hard, Mr. Speaker, to continue to work on behalf of New Brunswickers on their priorities, to make sure that we have the best healthcare system possible, to make sure that we are improving our education system every single day, and to make sure that we are growing the economy so New Brunswickers can stay here, can come back here, and have the best quality of life possible. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.